You have to put those two
Good.
frames.
We're live.
Great. Hi, Raj. Good evening. Good morning to you. Excited to have this webinar today. Thanks for joining us. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes before we start. We just have let's see like how many people join us.
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. Thanks everyone for joining.
We'll wait a couple of minutes, Raj.
Yeah, we'll wait for a minute or so. Yep, probably you can start, Karthik. It's more than a minute now.
We have only 7 viewers. I'm just waiting to make it a couple of more viewers. If you see, like we have on the screen. Yep, they're growing now. Yep, great. Good evening, good morning for all the people who are joining in to our current webinar, which is live. Interesting, we have with us Raj Sudhamala, who is the CEO and the solution architect at Silotech. Myself, Karthik. I have been working with multiple ERPs and enterprise solutions for the past 15 years. This is one of the opportunities that we are looking at introducing the test automation side of it. I'm just setting up the stage for the webinar. Raj, about you?
Hey, Karthik, thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. And yeah, this is Raj Sudhamala. I have around 25 years of IT experience, and definitely this is one of my favorite topics. Test automation. Basically this one is the one where we get the real customers, where they can feel it. I think we choose the first topic, but very interesting topic, where we can try to take care of it. Thank you.
Great. Yep. I'll just start over about Silotech, just to introduce about we belong to a company named Silotech, which is a multinational right now headquartered in US. We have our organizations across the globe, wherein we serve from Japan and Kenya as well. We call ourselves, our expertise very unique because we do a lot of digital work, which is technology driven and which is more close to the domain and the manufacturing side of it. So this is, and if you just look at the credentials, we are ISO certified as well as CMML level 3, which we take to our pride. Different solutions across that we do. Interesting to just to share, like majorly on the manufacturing and the financial side, we are very strong. Our strengths are solutions, name it, we have it, like from the analytics, advanced analytics standpoint, the digital transformation that we're talking about. We go with the transformation, like whether it's a process, transactions, decision, or the adoption side of it, because we believe that software is no more relevant unless it's adopted. Having said that, Industry 4.0, something on the AP automation that we're talking about, test automation, the today's topic, integrations is one of the unique and our strength where we get into the solutions and services. Platforms, we are across, we do a lot of, as I said, like when we talk about enterprises that we cater to, you name it, the service that we offer at a So coming over to the topic, yes, the agenda today that I'm talking, that we will be discussing further in this session is more on the test suite of your application. So having said that, in this case, the application is your ERP. So this digitalization, the automation, a lot of things happening everywhere, and I'll say pandemic has added a lot of flavor to it. So, and it has, like, as everybody's saying, what we were anticipating 2030, it's happening now in 2010. In this 1 year, 2021, we'll be seeing a lot of transformation across. Something like what is ready-made available with us, we'll be discussing upon. Some scenarios we'll be discussing. The framework that we talk about, that's something critical which Raj will focus upon. The implementation approach Raj will share across. See, the interesting part that we're talking here is something quick. It should not be a year-long prototype designing and then the implementation. We're saying we are prepared. Let's discuss why we need this. Right. So if we just understand, yep.
One quick thing, like I want to mention it to the users, is basically if you have any questions, please type in a message. We will definitely get back to you, during the session or like at the end of the session. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. There is a Q&A, dedicated Q&A that we have at the end where we will be addressing all your queries. If we are not able to accommodate, I'm sure like we will get back to you in person and talk to you for sure. So coming back onto the topic, I'll say like we are live. Okay, first thing, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and wherever accessible, please do go there and access it. Second important thing is LinkedIn. Yes, we're not there yet because it has not, our request has not been approved. Okay, coming back to the topic, how we talk about is like testing. What we say is like it's an organizational responsibility, and we say like you have to own it because the kind of diverse infrastructure, technology, the whole adoption, the digitalization, the whole thing is coming. The business processes, which is not just limited to one applications, they are now very complicated, because if you look at one application catering to all your needs, not possible. So you have multiple applications integrated, tightly integrated, coupled with multiple applications. So integrated and coupled is very interesting terms that we use very frequently. So here, what we see is that testing manually. Like now, I'm talking more primarily from the ERP standpoint, where a tester, when we talk about, he's not just a product tester. He's more of a, he has to have some domain. He has to know about the business processes. He needs to know about the product, as well as he needs to know about the technical part of it, right? So testing manually actually increases the complexity and the scope of manual error. And if I say about manual error, that's the risk that we're talking about, which we'll be covering as a part of this automation. So if I talk about, since we're talking about the ERP side of it, so who can be the customer profile? So for us, what we look at is, from this standpoint, from this webinar standpoint, who could be the ideal customer? So for me, I'll say like, since I have been there with Infor for 15 plus years, I'll say like all Infor clients, whosoever is working has a Infor installed as their enterprise applications. Yes, come talk to us, like we'll help you out. We will say something like Infor in ERP installation before 2 years. It should not be a recent one, because to have an automation like testing to properly execute, you need to have a stable system. We see that it takes minimum of 1 to 2 years for the system and processes to stabilize. That's where the value comes in. Manufacturing with global operations across geographies means like you are working, it can be a centralized one server where all your different companies are configured, or versus it could be decentralized. But having said that, when it's different geographies, there are different genres, different localizations, different modes and modus operandis could be there when it comes to this thing. So testing, so from that standpoint, it becomes very tedious activity. So this is very critical part. Then manufacturing centric operations with configurations, with configurators, say it could be a PCM, PCF, CPQs. There is a MES where, say, your scenario is make to order or configure to order. something like that you have, and it goes into MES. MES could be a dedicated one versus it could be a third. But having said that, when we talk about the complete automation, it has to be, uh, it becomes a little tough to manage when you have multiple applications like PLM, where you're managing your product. You have a CRM where you have your customers and your different stakeholders working over there, right? That's one side of it. Second side of it, the big challenge comes in when your ERP is customized. It's not standard. There's no one size fit all, obviously. So it's all customized and altered to suit your business processes. Now what happens is, now you have a ERP, you have customized it. Now the whole process is actually known just to you. So having said that, it becomes a little typical where you have to hire people for the testing purpose. And the other part, the important part, is you should have a active info support contract. That's very important, because non-supportable, like, it becomes a little tough. I don't say it cannot be done, can be done, but it's a little tough to work on that that platform. So that's the ideal customer profile. The challenges, which I have already covered in my iteration, like in the last slide iteration, when we were talking about that, challenges could come anyway. The thing that we are covering as a part of testing is risk and the expense, these two parts of it. And having said that, yes, there are some patch promotions happening every time a patch goes in. One of the easiest use case that I give every time to any of your my customer is, you are multinational, you're working across one of the country, puts a patch over there, has to be tested. You need to look into that where all it could break some rules, some policies. So you need to have proper testing. It could be a small fix or a big fix. So there is an effort that goes into, there is a cost that goes into, and it adds to the time to production, because the testing is very critical, and the testing could go into multiple iterations for that matter. There are customers with whom we are working who intends to generate, who from the compliance standpoint, when you actually promote something to when you intend to promote to the production, you need to have a compliance report coming out that, like, the system is still in compliant with the policy over there. So it could be FDA or something like that, where that's also possible from this particular the toolkit that we'll be discussing. Manual testing obviously needs data expertise. It's not just you hire some test engineers and do it, right? So it needs some expertise. Software promotions. So here what we're talking is not the overall framework. Yes, it can be done, but having said that, the essentials, what you need to have for your business, is a regression. Regression means a use case which is, say, order to cash, procure to pay, like that, like the end-to-end part of it. So you are 100% sure and confident that your system is mature and 100% foolproof, so that this new promotion that you're doing of your components can go very easily into production, and you can have a good night's sleep. Something on the delays and the prone to errors. The interesting part that comes in is the kind of cloud adoption that has aggressively been taken over across the world, maybe because of pandemic or because of different reasons. So this actually opens up, I'll say, bigger challenges, because your infrastructure is now diverse. It's not just on-premise, or it's not just cloud. It's like combination of on-premise, cloud, new integrations, new way of looking into stuff, the new approach coming in, the digitized, as I already talked about, the centralized versus decentralized. That's a big challenge. I don't say that processes are not happening or not yet been has been running foolproof and good, but having said that, a bad day could be any day, right? So that's a risk that we're talking about. And this as a suit actually brings in the maturity to the whole cycle, which we are talking about. From the preparation standpoint, as I said, what is how exactly we are prepared from the silo tech, where we have invested. So significant amount of investment has gone in, where we are maintaining multiple variants of ERP in particular, where we are talking about from 10.4 onwards, something technical which Raj will cover, where why exactly 10.4, what happens earlier than that. Then say the processes, the few critical processes, say order to cash, plan to deliver, procure to pay, record to report. These are all critical processes every organization, and these are the primary reason why as an organization you adopt ERP, so that you can bring in a better portfolio and better interactions between the different departments. So when we talk about these, so having said that, what we have built is we have built exhaustive list of scripts which are big and small. I'll say like the number looks less, but I'll say it just covers majority of the task, majority of the functionality across. And these and many of them are reusable scripts, which when we tailor it for your specific business process, it becomes much easier and much faster for us to actually jump into go live scenario from the testing standpoint. And the thing is, if I talk about if you look at these four processes for one of our customer where we are working, in order to cash itself has 12 scenarios for say 4 different countries. So in a way, one order to cash regression cycle, we are talking about 48 variants of regression cycle that we are implementing over there. So that's the maturity. And now the thing is, and the process that goes in, it's very fast, quick, though the count is high. But having said that, it just fits in the whole maturity cycle. Same is the case that we have built for EAM. Now, EAM is again something on the asset side of it, where we are talking on the of your assets, where you have major activity and task goes into the work management, material management, and the purchase management. So these are the initial ones which we have pre-built, which we are looking at, like we keep reusing for multiple customers. So the processes could be like a asset acquisition, how exactly the asset gets into your portfolio, and then the operations and maintenance, the work orders, then the consumption of material, the labor, the tools. Material part of it means the inventory, the procurement side of it, right? So these are the different portfolios that I was just wanted to show that this is the maturity that I'm talking about, like where what exactly as a silo tech we can deliver. The interesting piece over here is from this two slides that I have shown here is, yes, it shows our understanding that there is a significant gap over there, because there is no dedicated script or a test automation suite that has been delivered or built for Infor customer till date. We have achieved that part. Second thing is, we have credentials where we have proven our skills. We have worked with multinational billion-dollar organizations to a small company also, because a risk is not big and small. A risk is a risk. That's how we look at it. So having said that, that's the maturity that we bring in, and the approach that we take, Raj.
Sure. Thanks, Karthik. So one of the key things, like Karthik mentioned, is good night's sleep, right? So that is actually one of the most important thing, like for our organizations, like to have a trust, and also like to have the things that should be work on a process mode and all those things. We need to have the regression to be done, and where it kind of failed and how it can be failed. Like you need to know that exactly it is. So we at Silotech, like one of the great advantage, like what we have it here is we have the functional teams, especially via ERP, functional and technical teams. Along with that, we have a good amount of expertise of the domain experts, like across all the different expertise levels, like from manufacturing, insurance, finance, like you name it, like we got all the domain experts. Along with that, like adding to this, like now we have the test automation, right? Like so we do have the test automation. So with all the combinations of this, like we actually go and work on our own framework. So why it's actually more important, like for our customers, like to be on this particular one is Karthik, probably you can go to the next slide. So we have built-in accelerators. Like we have around 250 accelerators. So what does that bring us? And like along with this accelerators, we have frameworks, we have utilities, and what does this going to bring? It's going to bring in like the speed of the development, and also. Hey, I think looks like we are hearing some echo. Karthik, probably can you can you be on mute? Just try that. Yeah, even I'm also hearing that echo. Yeah, I think this is much better. Right, Simon? I think you're okay now?
Yep.
Okay. I think, yeah, definitely for me, it's much better also. Thank you. Okay. Okay, that's good. So, so one of the main things is like, we have the accelerators, and also like, when we have these accelerators, it actually brings up with the easy maintenance, and also like, the very less amount of development and everything like, that can be done. And apart from that, like we have our own, as Karthik said, like, we have our own test scripts, right? Like, we have our own built-in scripts. These are all like, it reduces around like 60 to 70% of the effort, like, when you get into the development. And along with that, like, we have completely wrapped around like with the CI/CD development, like with the continuous integration and deployment pipeline that's been developed, where the customer can go and run it when they want to run it and at what they want to run. So we are actually saying it's a completely regression suite, but we can even run the impacted test suite also. What that means is like, because of all the expertise team, like, what we have it, so we can at least group and tag our, like the tag everything, like, whatever we are actually trying to do. For example, right, like, there is a major patch that is actually coming. So then, like, we need to probably run it like a full regression there. And sometimes, like, we need to run like, okay, there is an order to cache, like, there is some module that got changed. So now, because it's been tagged and it's been grouped, we can just run only that kind of components. And what does this bring to the customer is, like, hey, you don't need to run the whole suite again. You can just run it like what exactly that you want. You can reduce the time, and you can even have weekly releases. Sometimes our customers has daily releases also. So that's how, like, we have it. And the other important thing, like, what we have it is, uh, um, basically, like, because of all the expertise, like, I think as Karthik is mentioning, like, we are actually supporting from 10.4 onwards, like, but there are some customers really, like, what we got it, like, with the earlier versions. Then, like, then we went back and see that, like, okay, maybe Selenium is not really an option here. Okay, what else is there? Okay, then, like, we went through, because a framework still works there, but like, all we have plugged in is UFT. So we have plugged in the UFT, and we actually implemented the whole Selenium and everything, like, the UFT, and along with the whole framework and everything. And we are actually able to get that work to be delivered like, at ease actually. And one of the customers, like, where they have the responsive web design, like for the cloud version of Infor and all those things, where we have the responsive web design. That's where, like, we went through the protractor, like, because that has, like, JavaScript domain and all those things, which we can get it and which we actually use. So what I mean to say is, like, we have the expertise from all the technology perspectives, where we can choose the right tool, right platform. And along with that, like, we have the framework along with that, like, that actually makes it much more faster for us, like, when we reduce it to the customer. And with all this, like, we can develop with the reusable components, and also, like, with the Excel sheets and all those things, where we don't need to do that, like, customer can go and do that. So Karthik, hope that explains about
Yeah,
our
yeah, yeah, exactly. So the interesting part about, see, product testing and the ERP testing are totally, even though from the framework standpoint you can apply the same thing, but thing is that the important thing with ERP testing is you need to bring in that combination of domain, business process. You have to get the product expertise, as well as the last thing is the the test engineers who will code, like who can code the scripts. And it depends upon how exactly how much strong is your change management process, because this test automation that we're talking about, this belongs to the change management, and they need to ensure that the governance is in place, that anything that goes in or needs to be approved, needs to be tested, it has to be properly validated and verified, then only you can go and hit the production. So in that process, what happens is, the important part here is, unless you automate, you're just adding another layer. I'll say, like, it adds to the frustration of your business because they need to wait for a little longer, because you don't have automated scripts. Because if you have automation, it's just an overnight task. You click it, it just executes. You need to give the data and done, right? That's how the maturity actually comes into your processes. And the thing is, the sign off is like the outcome of this process, the successful process or the failure process is a evidence also. There is a report that is coming out where exactly we failed versus where exactly it has gone to the a success. Say it can be a video report, like saying the whole process. Now, the kind of benefits that my customers have seen of this process is these videos, the end-to-end process. They're using it for education purpose, like to their new joinees, that they're saying like this is the process that we do, right? That's something interesting that's coming in. And Raj, you want to add over there?
Yeah. Like for one of the customers, you remember, right? Like, we
Yes.
have actually even given the thumbnails of like, when there is an error, like when there is an issue. And like, we have even driven like through the thumbnail, even if it's a multiple steps and all those things. And where they don't even need to go through the videos also, like, from their test repository, like we use the Jira, test trail and all those things. That's where like, they can even see their thumbnails, what the issue is, like if there is a data issue or like it's something like that also, which they are actually able to go through.
Right. So from the change management standpoint, if I look at a mature ERP model, there are two kinds of releases. One is a small releases where quick fixes and bug fixes can go in, and there is a major release where there is where the database and the whole server, the whole thing is being like it usually happens during the weekend. 2-3 days of downtime is there. So we need to plan the change management in that process. Means a regression can happen anytime, but having said that, a detailed one can go into that particular release cycle. So that's how the change management has to plan. And I'll say that the button clicking part has to be with the change management. So, and having said that, yes, we have worked in my past organization where it was so mature, and the process looked so clear. Like there was a dedicated system, a test system, because you don't run these automation tools on a production. It has to have a dedicated test system, which is a recent clone from the production, where you are able to see like you are able to simulate if at all there is a challenge or there is an error, right? Interesting part that I want to talk about a little more about this thing is this is based on the maturity that we bring in, as well as the understanding that there is a requirement from the test automation. So I'll say like the important part is you need to hire a partner, because there's no point investing on this particular part. I don't see any value. Personally, I'll say that hire a partner with the domain, product, and the testing expertise. So it has to be like that. Now, testing expertise. Earlier, as I said, like these test engineers have now transformed into a test automation engineers. That's how I look at it. And this domain part is very relevant because it adds value, because otherwise there is a lot of effort in that knowledge transfer that happens. And the thing is, best practices are not easily adoptable. Product and application expertise is needed, because I'll say how much ever you have your mature process, there are still some loopholes in the product which should be aware on the both cases, as well as there is a custom process that you have it. Somebody has to understand those custom processes before we put it in. And how we start is we start with a POC. A small POC is very, very essential, because what we're talking about, this particular automation is not just the ERP. ERP is a part of it as on date. As I say, there is if I say order to cash scenario, it's like before order to cash, there is a code to order, right? Code to order means there is some CRM over there. After CRM, there is a configurator over there. After configurator, you have the ERP, the order gets created. Then there is a delivery mechanism. If you have it in ERP, fine. The kitting process, how it happens, the picking and kitting. Then actually the shipment happens. If it's from order to from stock you are shipping, or if it's in make to order, then it goes to MES. Or MES, the order gets processed. Then there is a different step so happening over there. Then the whole thing comes back to your warehouse from where the shipping happens. After the shipment is done, like based on the invoicing protocols that you have set, the invoice happens. So having said that, this whole process, if you see, it's not just one product. It's multiple applications that are interacting, which are integrated. I'll say if it's not integrated, yes, you should integrate it because that saves a lot of time. That's not part of this particular session. Like we can have a separate session on that for sure. I'm very much interested because I do a lot of solutioning. That's one side of it. If we look at a typical case, okay, fine, I don't have automation. How am I doing it? Like still things are happening. You need to have 3 to 4 dedicated experts testing it. Maybe they're taking less time, but they need to dedicate some effort and time. There's a cost that you need to invest on it. But the thing is, this whole process, whatever I talked about, for me, it's a single regression test. Regression means an end-to-end business process test. That's how I look at it. And this is where the expertise, the beauty of the application, it comes in. So I'll say, let's start. You should start with a POC. If you don't have it from the automation standpoint, you need to set up very strong change management protocols, because now what happens is, based on your frequency with which you deliver your custom or your standard patches to your production, the whole change management protocols will change. Possibly you might be doing agile. Based on that thing also, the test automation has to be tailored. So that's where the whole trick plays. That's one thing. And second thing is, you should start automating the high risk processes. Means you cannot afford a downtime of that particular process because stakeholders are high, the stakes are high, the cost of the downtime is high. So that's a high risk that you should have it regression. I mean, that process you should get it done, right? Say as I said, as I talked about that customer for whom we are doing, they identified order to cash. They have all the other processes of which they identified order to cash. So this is a single scenario, and then they got into because of they do make to stock and make to order for different items, because based on items the kind of the whole workflow changes. So then what happened is, finally we agreed for 12 scenarios, as I said, like 4 different countries. So it's 48 different scenarios that are being built. Now this thing, if for him is, he has covered his risk part. Whenever any patch or any change that happens to the configuration, at a click of a button, the whole suite runs and gives him a detailed report, because we have identified the pockets where there could be a challenge. So that's how it keeps the person informed, the responsible person informed to take an immediate action, right? That's the beauty of this one. The last one, as I said, like you have to regularize this process. It's not an ad hoc process that I'm talking. So this is how the approach has to be. But I'll say, like, let's start small. A POC can be done very quick. So timelines, as I said, it's just 1 week. Just 1 week based on the complexity. Like I'll say, the POC is more about understanding the technical infrastructure, like how much supportive is it. As Raj mentioned say we were trying for Selenium, but Selenium didn't work, so we shifted over to the UFT, because this customer was on an older version of ERP, where as you know about the Selenium, Raj, if you can throw some light on the Selenium, like how exactly I'm interested in that.
Sure.
Selenium, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So you mean, like, how the Selenium kind of works and all those things, right?
Yeah.
So
What all does it support? Yeah.
Yeah, typically any web applications, which is actually typical any web applications will be, we can go ahead and do the Selenium. And one of the key things here is whatever we got it, like the other tools, like whatever we have, it's really wrapper around the Selenium. For example, like if you go your Cucumber BDDs, or probably if you go and look into the other protractors and all those things also, it's going to be exactly the same Selenium, which you're actually going to use it. But for example, when we are actually trying to do for the UFT, right? That's what we're trying to talk about. So for that, one of the key things here is the DOM object, for that HTML, which we are actually not even able to get that. It's Karthik. Probably I think you when I'm talking, probably you should be on mute. Is it better? Probably it might be better. Okay. I think let's make sure, I think, when I'm talking, you try to be on mute, Karthik. Okay. So So one of the key things here is like, because of the DOM object, like we are actually not able to get the elements out of it. That's been like, where we have used UFT actually for that. Yeah. So other one thing, like, Karthik, like, when you are actually mentioning, like one thing, like, and I would like to definitely add, when you're actually mentioning about POC and all those things, is our approach, right? So it just like, okay, we got the application, and like, we just don't want to immediately jump onto the POC because of all the expertise and everything, especially our business domain and everything. We actually look at the overall picture of the application, like overall picture of the ERP, what they wanted, and scope it down. And also, like, we work on the design, like, because that's where, like, where we can try to get our reusable components, like a data-driven model, page object models, and all those things. And like, sometimes, like, especially for ERP, like, you may not be having like, two-level hierarchy where you can get the directly from Excel sheets. Like Excel sheets are two-level dimensions, right? Like, in this case, like, you may sometimes want to get it like, multi-level dimensions, like, so that's when, where for one of the customers, like, we have used JSON files also as part of that. So it's all important, like, because of all the knowledge, like, whatever we have acquired so far, like with all the technical automation architects, like, whatever we have the right tools, right people, and like a right expertise, like, to choose what is the best for customers with all the accelerators and everything to bring in. Hope that answered the question, Karthik. I'm going to unmute you.
Yep. Thanks, Raj. So yes, I'll say the interest. Like, okay, I'm not that technical, but the way I understand is 10.4 onwards, there is some technical changes that have happened. The way Infer exposes itself into the web UI through because of Mingle and all, and that's where what happens is that's particular parts Selenium supports. Before 10.4, it's Java based, where it's a little tough for Selenium to identify those unique objects across. So what happens is that's the reason our POC failed, and that's for the learning that we had. That goes with the other tools also. Like you have other tools which we tried, like Test Complete and the other ones. That's one thing. Second thing, just more on the regression side of it, we have very strong expertise on the performance testing, where it could be the same UFT, the load runner, micro focus load roller, or the JMeter. And I'll say like how I look at it is like with the cloud adoption, the way things are going, saying your ownership of the infrastructure is shifting towards the OEM. You have a limited say. Having said that, like I'm not saying on a negative side, but that's a beauty about the cloud part is like you are risk free now because the whole thing is being maintained by your OEM. It could be in case of ERP, it could be Infer or Oracle. And but the beauty is you're able to access your system from anywhere, any device, any platform. It could be any browser. Okay. Now here, what happens is your business process is tailored and mapped into the ERP as per your requirement. Now, thing is, since the ownership is not there with you, all this file, since it was there with you, you're 100% sure it's not there. It's advisable that you have to own it. So that's where I started. I'd say like it's your organizational need and you have to own it, because that's where you are confident that your processes are running 100% sure, irrespective of the application, the infrastructure is there with you or not. That's an important part that I'm looking at, where if not the whole suite, the regression, the critical processes, there should be a button where I can click it and it should give me address. It should address my requirement and say like, hey, listen, your requirement is 100% foolproof. The process is running good. And that's the satisfaction that I'm looking at. And that's what we are offering as a part of this testing process. And the thing is with Infer, nobody has done it. Like I have heard of a couple of customers earlier, like Boeing, just like to name it, where they have tried doing that. But having said that, since the frameworks were not that supportive, it didn't go for long. But having said that, with this new frameworks that we are talking about, it's easy. I have seen it, I have done it. So that's the reason like I'm more confident. That's the confidence that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Anything? Yeah.
One key thing, let me unmute you. So one key thing, like, I would like to mention is integrations. right? Like, means our framework definitely supports that particular integrations. That is actually one of the key things, especially like, when we really looked at from an ERP perspective, because, we as an ERP, like we have to go and like, talk to the CRMs or like data warehousing and like, and all the different like, all the different databases or like, any other data sources or anything like that. So the framework has a kind of like, where we can go. It might be REST or SOAP or like, maybe sometimes, like there may be the data that's going to be coming in like, from the other sources, like which we can go and like, when we are actually doing the regression, we can support that. Yeah, Karthik, over to you.
Yeah, the other part, Raj, you want to talk about the Salesforce integration, which we are doing. That's very interesting.
Yes, yes. Like what we have done it is like, we have one customer and like this one is actually completely for CPQ, for the CPQ. So when we have initially started, like, when we have started our initial discussions, right? Like, okay, yeah, you have some login to your configure screen and pricing screen, like, you need to automate that. Okay, so that's good enough. Then like, then we went and added that like, so that like it can make it much more completely, like we have done it like, with one file, one Java file, and they have like, 20 different countries, and also like, with the different structures, and which we are actually able to do that like, with your JSON file, like, which is completely driven from the JSON file. The beauty of it is the customer no need to come to us like, if they want to add a new tab or a new product or like, pricing or new validations or anything like that. Everything was taken care of from the JSON file itself. Now, okay, what we do, okay, we are out of it, we are completely out of it. Customer is actually handling the whole of their regression suite and everything, and they're running it by themselves, and like they are actually seeing the results, and like, and that's the beauty of it. Like, means, yeah, we leave it like, with a completely reusable data driven model, so that like, customer can run it on their own. Yeah.
Yep, that's the thing from our end. We wanted to have some videos that we wanted to show, but I'll say like the end evidence video, they are more of like a tutorial, like it just running. It doesn't show what is the backend for it. Raj is the best person who can talk in and out for days together about this framework and this part of it. And as I said, it's not just one person task;
Yeah.
it's more. There is something that I want to
Well,
share, like doing another webinar, similar webinar, where we want to interact with the person responsible over there, for whom we who can talk the pain areas or how exactly things worked out. So we have maybe Raj, you can add something about Peter.
yeah, yeah. Like I know Peter like, for quite some time. Like for almost like, 8 to 9 years. Like, we worked with one of the organization here, and basically like, he is actually a test manager. Like, especially the one thing like, beauty of it is he's hands-on and like, knows the business process and also gets the coverage perspective. Like that's actually very important from the test automation. He understands that well, like, so that's where like, where we are going to bring in Peter, especially to talk about like, what is that like when we go to the customer, like implementation perspective, and also like, kind of the coverage perspective, like, how the Peter is going to have the better things like, that can be added.
Thanks, Raj.
Yep.
If we have like, we can open up. If you have any questions. So we see like a couple of chats that are coming in. Siddhant, can you just help us where you're joining in from? Or Simon? So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
these
One more thing is like, yeah, means, yeah, no, just I want to add like one thing is, yeah, I think our team can put on like, our contacts and all those things, like it's not just restricted to this webinar. Definitely at any point of time, like you guys can come and reach out to for the further discussions. If you want to get some expertise notes or like in anything like that, we are more than welcome to talk about it. Like, yeah, and we can get along with the discussions. No issue at all. Sorry, Karthik, go ahead.
Yeah. So couple of things I'll tell you. Like, we don't say we are experts. We just trying building in different technologies, and we are just sharing our information. So we're just trying to put them in a perspective along with you. Our approach is we co-partner. We don't say that I will own something and I will not give you back. We co-partner because that's the trust through which we work, right? Uh, Simon, does this software report back on performance of certain transactions? So yes, Simon, there is something on the performance. So performance is relative. Now, performance, is it something that you're looking at from the transaction standpoint, or is it like how exactly the ecosystem of operating system, your say the tool set, yep. Say your porting set, that the tools, the database, how exactly the whole thing works or interacts. That's how you're looking at. Because if that is the case, it's a different tool. Yes, we are doing it. In case if you're looking at from the application standpoint, yes, we can always do that. Now, that's, as I said, like performance is relative. We can always discuss that part. So it's not just a question that I can address. There are a lot of different things that go into it. Oh yeah. I can relate to it, Simon, like very much. Okay, so this is just happening with one of the customers where we have identified 8 different scenarios from the transaction standpoint, where we are trying to reciprocate or simulate. Yeah. I'll just address the first question after the porting set upgrade. So there are a lot of challenges that we have come across after the porting set upgrade that's happening. It can help you identify where the challenges are. It can help you identify uh, solving a performance issue. Yes, it's a separate task from the. It could be, as I said, it could be the compatibility, because I have seen like many a times Infor has come back and mentioned about upgrading your database, because many of our customers are upgrading it to the latest one because of this compatibility issue. But yes, we can always discuss that. But it could be a core DB issue, or it could be maybe operating system. It's just a combination that you need to upgrade. Uh, is the integration happening through Ion? No, we don't need Ion, because, as I said, it's all web browser based. It doesn't need any integrations. It just works, just surfaces on the web browser and just flows through your processes. It's that easy. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I will add like one more thing here is basically from the integration perspective, right, Siddhant, like means since you are actually working on the regression, and all you need is an endpoints, like the endpoints can be like probably from Ion, like if the customer does has it, or like we just use the endpoints in your Selenium code, or like whichever the tool that you are actually using, like if you want to go and test the integrations for the other applications, if that is your question, like yes, from your Selenium perspective, like you can have your own APIs, like we normally use Appium for that, like from Appium, like for our API testing, and that's what like what we use.
Yeah. We hope we have addressed your queries, Simon and Siddhant. Yep. So either ways, like I have not. I'll just yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the thing. And any time, and you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Uh,
Yeah, I'm going to put in like for my chat window, my email address, just if in case, like if you do want to reach out to me, and like means yeah, Karthik, probably you can have your email address, like so that if something like if you anybody want to come and like reach out to us, any questions like they may have it.
So one thing is, like, as I said, like our approach is more of a co-partner. It's not about, like, we know there could be bigger challenges. So for us, what we do is like we bring in all our expertise. But having said that, yes, uh, there's no, we don't charge for talking. You can always call us, discuss your problems. We can share the best. Yes, we have to work it out. There are a lot of challenges that we are seeing that's happening where we are not having. Sure, Siddhant. Yeah, that's what the thought process is. We want to go a bit technical, both on the functional side as well as on the Selenium side on our next interaction, where we want to show you, like, because as I said, it's not something that we are doing for the first time. Selenium has been there, Infer has been there, test automation has been there. It's just that, like, we are bringing things together. I'll surely, like, Siddhant will surely do that.
Good feedback, Siddhant. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Sure.
So thank you, Raj. I think we had a good session today, where it was we were able to share, and we will try to continue for the people who have joined. Thanks a lot for sharing, for being with us almost for 50 minutes. That's one thing. And second, there are a lot of different things that we will be talking about, not just this one. It could be on the integrations, it could be REST APIs, it could be on the IDM, on the Infer side, it could be specific to multi-site functional part. See, the thing is, it's not that every time you hear only from Infer. It's like experiences can come anywhere from any side, right? So that's the thing that we're looking at, and as well as, like, we have something, we have built in something on the late AI and ML based OCR that we have built, which we are going very strong and very that we want to showcase why exactly it's so sophisticated. Then there is something that we can talk about, the industry 4.0, which we have gone live with one of the big customers, which is totally integrated with your Infer ERP, and it's almost all operations across your shop floor, be it with the vendor, be it with the customer, and it shows you the transparency and brings in the traceability. So that's the kind of thing that we wanted to show. Rather than putting, we want to have more interactive videos that we will be doing on a regular basis. So going further, so that's the thought process, and do reach out to us for any kind of help or any kind of suggestions on the mutual side. So that's the thing that we have for today. Thank you, Raj, for being there.
Thank you. Thank you,
me.
Karthik. Like, yeah, it's great. It was really great. Like, nice
Thanks.
chatting with you.
Thank you. We'll talk.
And thanks everyone for joining.